The 2021 Washington Nationals season was like a roller coaster that wasn't finished. Just as the Nationals began to turn things around, briefly finding themselves above 500 and trailing the Mets by just 3 games, everything went horribly wrong. Injuries, a struggling bullpen, and sometimes just plain bad luck tanked a season that had some people, including myself, seeing glimpses of that 2019 Nats squad re-emerging in this 2021 team. And how could we not be excited about Kyle Schwarber blasting what felt like 100 home runs in June? Or Trey Turner hitting for his Major League record-tying 4th cycle of his career? Or how about that crazy back-and-forth 13-12 victory over the Phillies that saw the Nationals come back 3 separate times to win? But that was then, and this is now.
If you go past the bag, you have got to retouch on your way back to first. Thomas did not, and he is doubled up.
Ground ball over to third. Kibum's got it. Flips to first. He pulled Bell off the bag. He pulled him way off the bag. And Segura goes to second.
For the first time in a long time, the Washington Nationals are in a full-scale rebuild. 8 players were traded away at the deadline, including future Hall of Famer Max Scherzer and star shortstop Trey Turner, for a huge list of young prospects. Many of these prospects have already been called up to play for the Nationals during the 2021 season, all following the lead of perennial MVP candidate and the best hitter in baseball, Juan Soto. Juan Soto plays right field, and will for at least the next 3 seasons. But for other positions around the diamond, in the rotation, and in the bullpen, there are a lot more question marks. Trust me, if you fear the unknown, it's best to stay away from this mess. As for the rest of us, all we can do is speculate. And that's just what I'm going to do. Here are my way too early roster predictions for the 2022 Washington Nationals. The Nationals rotation is a mess right now, and that's a little odd for a franchise that has been built around starting pitching for the past decade. But regardless, the Nationals will need to put 5 starters out there, so here's what they have as their options. The only sure lock in the rotation will be Patrick Corbin. Corbin had the worst season of his career in 2021, as well as the worst season of any starting pitcher in Major League Baseball that threw as many innings as he did. But he's also going to be in the 4th year of a 6-year, $140 million contract. He's going to pitch for this team regardless of how well he does. In an ideal scenario, he'll make adjustments in the offseason and return to 2019 form, where he finished in the top 10 in ERA in the National League. Or maybe he'll continue to struggle. One thing is certain though, if this team wants to have a chance at being competitive next season, Corbin is going to have to figure it out. The next precarious situation belongs to Stephen Strasburg. Strasburg made only 5 starts in 2021 due to multiple injuries, including his shoulder, hand, and neck, the latter of which required season-ending thoracic outlet surgery. This is a surgery that has varying degrees of success, another bad hand dealt to a guy who has seen so many of those in his career already. Despite Mike Rizzo claiming he's on track to be ready for spring, I personally don't think he will be. So, with Strasburg likely out in my scenario, at least at the beginning of the season, that leaves Josiah Gray with the 2nd spot in the rotation. Gray was acquired in the trade deadline that sent Scherzer and Turner to the Dodgers. He's still a raw talent at age 23, but he's clearly got the stuff to succeed in the major leagues. His 4-seam fastball is his best pitch with solid velocity and above average spin rate according to Baseball Savant. Gray showed flashes in 2021, but he still has some shortcomings that are expected of young pitchers. He wasn't able to keep the ball in the yard consistently enough, and he struggled to put away left-handed hitters. Yet he can also make batters look downright silly at times. I think his main priority this offseason should be the development of a pitch to get lefties out. He throws a changeup, but it really doesn't do a whole lot. If that pitch isn't the answer, he could incorporate a cutter like Max Scherzer did, or maybe try out a splitter. Either way, he'll get his chances in 2022. Now for the question marks. I anticipate the Nationals will try and sign at least one low-cost free agent starting pitcher. My top two options are Danny Duffy or Jon Gray, and I'm leaning towards Gray in this spot. So yeah, that would be 2 Jay Grays in the starting rotation. Surely that won't get confusing. Jon Gray has had a career ERA of 4.54, which is pretty uninspiring until you remember that he's pitched in Colorado his whole career. For pitchers coming out of Coors Field, advanced metrics that adjust for different run environments are the best way to see true value. A stat like ERA Plus adjusts for different ballparks, and a stat like FIP can adjust for the defense he had behind him. Both of these metrics suggest that Jon Gray is a better pitcher than his base stats show he is, which gives me confidence he would be a solid rotational piece for the next 2 to 3 seasons. The 4th and 5th spots are even more complicated. The Nationals could choose to sign a second free agent, but I think it's more likely they go with in-house options for 2022. Joe Ross would be a candidate. Ross was shut down due to a partially torn UCL, however he won't require Tommy John surgery at this point, which should put him on track to be ready for spring training. The final spot goes to the quick fan favorite, Josh Rogers. Rogers got an opportunity to pitch near the end of the 2021 season, and he did not squander it. In a small sample size, Rogers posted a 3.17 ERA that included some downright stellar performances, including a game against Miami where he made it to the 8th inning and only allowed 1 run. I say they give him a shot because at this point, why not? So there's your Washington Nationals starting rotation for next year, 100% confirmed. Now let's move on to everyone's favorite drama-filled reality show that is the Washington Nationals Bullpen.
Let's eat! Oops!
A huge overhaul is needed for the Nationals bullpen to be anywhere near watchable next season. They were among the worst in Major League Baseball in every major statistic and were pitching the Nats out of games the entire second half. The 2021 Nationals bullpen set a Major League record of 36 blown saves. The Nationals had 10 bullpen arms at the end of 2021, but that was with expanded rosters. They'll need to fill just 7 of those spots for next year, so let's see who will make the cut. Kyle Finnegan might be the only guy in the current bullpen that has a great chance at returning next season. He was the Nationals' best reliever in 2021, although that's not saying much. Finnegan's ERA finished at a 3.55 in his first full big league season, which is a solid number, but underlying metrics don't like him quite that much. Tanner Rainey is next, and it's a prove-it year for him. Rainey, after a pretty great 2020 stint, battled injuries and poor performances all throughout 2021. His velocity dipped significantly in the beginning of the season before he hit the injured list for a lengthy amount of time. He came back for a few appearances toward the end of the season with better velo, but location mistakes were still haunting him. This is it for Tanner Rainey. If he doesn't show improvement in 2022, the Nationals will probably look to move on. Now, for a couple long relief options, I have Paolo Espino and Joanne Adan. Espino proved to be an innings eater who could spot start if needed, and that's always something the bullpen can use. As for Adan, I know he only pitched 1 game in 2021, but I just can't watch Eric Fetty anymore. As for the free agent market, there's obviously a ton of players to choose from, and there's no chance I'll predict who the Nationals will sign correctly. So let's do it. Archie Bradley is a potential candidate. He pitched for the Phillies in 2021, and he was alright. He's kind of an interesting case because he's only 29 years old, but was pitching on a 1-year deal, and he probably didn't do enough to warrant a long-term contract anywhere. I can't see the Nationals signing any big names for the bullpen this offseason, so Bradley on a 1 or 2 year deal makes sense. Also, he hit a triple once. Jake Diekman is going into his age 35 season, so he'll be another short-term deal, most likely only 1 year. He has the ability to post high strikeout rates along with high walk rates, and is another guy that's more of a role filler for next season than anything else, and he's better than the in-house options we have at left-handed pitcher. And finally, I have another lefty in Chasen Shreve. Shreve has bounced from team to team throughout his career, so why not a stop in DC for a year? He's a lefty reliever who gets outs, and he's coming off a solid season. So there we have it, a perfectly accurate prediction of the 2022 Nationals bullpen. Honestly, if even one of those free agents signs with the Nats, I'm counting it as a win. Hey, we get to end this video on a positive note because I chose to talk about the 2022 lineup last. Good work, me! The post-All-Star break Nationals lineup was way better than we all thought they were going to be. The Nationals were top 10 in Major League Baseball in OPS, WRC+, runs scored, and were actually first place in the National League in batting average. Obviously, batting average isn't that important, but it's still cool. There's a lot to like about this Nationals lineup, so let's go from top to bottom. Batting leadoff and playing center field, Lane Thomas. The Lane train pulled into the station out of nowhere in early August, and he never turned around, slashing .270, .364, .489 with an OPS of .853 out of the leadoff spot in 44 games. If he's not just a flash in the pan, Mike Rizzo is going to look even smarter than he already does in that John Lester trade. And it worked out for Lester too, since he got access to the Cardinals' devil magic and started pitching well after being traded. Batting second, in right field, it's Juan Soto. Soto had a 2021 season that was unrivaled by any batter in Major League Baseball. He was doing things that only Ted Williams and Barry Bonds had done before him. I could just put up the numbers and let you all drool over them like we've all probably done many times, but I'll skip that and talk instead about the impact he has on this lineup. Post All-Star break, there was not a single player who commanded as much attention as Juan Soto did in any lineup. Every single team approached Soto the same way. They didn't mess with him. They collectively looked at a 22-year-old kid and said, "That guy can't beat us." Soto walked more than he struck out, led the league in on-base percentage, OPS+, batting WAR, and pitcher staredowns. He's the best hitter in the game right now, and he's only going to get better. The shortstop position is completely up in the air at this point. The Nationals re-signed Alcides Escobar to a one-year deal, but he's clearly not the answer long-term. Escobar would be great as a utility guy who's a solid contact hitter, and I hope that's the role he gets. Meanwhile, the free agent market for shortstops has 5 players who could all be getting lucrative long-term contracts this offseason, and I believe the Nationals are going to sign one of them. So, batting third, playing shortstop, it's Trevor Story. Story makes sense to me because of his power from the right side of the plate. The Nationals seriously lacked in that aspect in 2021, as Trey Turner led all Nationals right-handed hitters in home runs, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but he only played half a season in DC. Story will get paid a lot of money, but it'll probably be less than what Carlos Correa or Marcus Semien may command. I hope the Nationals sign one of these guys though, because otherwise, Alcides Escobar is going to be the starter, and next year is going to be rough. Batting cleanup, it's Josh Bell. Bell had an overall solid season that could have been even better had he managed to get off to a better start. After COVID had him miss the first week of the season, it took Bell quite a while to find his rhythm. But he did, and he tore up National League pitching throughout the second half of the season. Just take a peek at his Baseball Savant page and all those juicy red circles. Hey, sprint speed, get out of here. You're ruining the moment. Bell is clearly going to be the Nationals' starting first baseman in 2022, and hopefully beyond. Get this man an extension, please. Batting fifth and playing left field, it's Kyle Schwarber. Are my rose-colored glasses trying to show me my deepest desires, or is it realistic to say that Schwarber could be back next year? It's not a secret that the Nationals lack power beyond Soto and Bell after the trade deadline, so why not bring back a known beast of a left-handed hitter? If the Nationals can get Schwarber on a 3 or preferably 4-year deal, he should be around for the next postseason run if all goes according to Mike Rizzo's plan. With MLB's collective bargaining agreement expiring in 2021, it's likely that the designated hitter will be added to the National League for the foreseeable future, which opens up plenty of possibilities for the Nationals' DH spot. Looks like Gerardo Parra still has a roster spot. Nah, but seriously, this is a tough spot to predict. If Kyle Schwarber returns, he could be used in the DH spot, but I think what's ultimately going to happen is a DH by committee, with Schwarber splitting time between left field and designated hitter, along with a right-handed batter. Ryan Zimmerman hasn't formally announced his retirement, and if he wants to come back, they'll certainly let him. If the DH is introduced in the National League, Zim may just want to run it back. The DH spot will give him a lot more plate appearances while saving his legs. Think 2019 Howie Kendrick. He didn't play every day, but that made him better when he was in the lineup. That's what Zim could do here, and I think he will decide to come back if the DH is implemented. Now, the last factor in all of this is who will be playing left field when Schwarber DHs. My answer is Lane Thomas, with Victor Robles taking his spot in center field. I'm going to finish this lineup assuming the DH is going to be implemented, so I'll put Ryan Zimmerman in the 6th spot behind Schwarber. He's not going to play every day, but on opening day, he'll probably get the start if he comes back for next season. Batting 7th, playing catcher, is Bear Ruiz. Ruiz joined the Nationals via the trade with the Dodgers, and he made his Nats debut in August. His bat took a while to come around, but he got hot in September and finished the year slashing .284, .348, and .395. And if you've seen his AAA homers, you know those power numbers are going to go way up as he gains more experience. I was most impressed by his defense, as he recorded 0 pass balls in 21 games in Washington. With the state the bullpen was in, that's fairly impressive. Batting 8th, playing second base, Luis Garcia. Mike Rizzo mentioned that Garcia will have every opportunity to become the everyday second baseman, and I believe he's going to take another step forward next season. He's already begun to figure it out at the plate, as he slugged .474 in his last 30 games of the 2021 season, and was basically a doubles machine to finish out the year. His fielding is kind of a weird case. He was pretty bad, but it was because he failed to make the simple plays. If he can clean that up, he has all the makings of a solid defender, with some pop coming out of the second base position. Finally, batting 9th, playing third base, Carter Kibum. 2022 might be Carter Kibum's last shot at becoming the Nationals' everyday third baseman. The 24-year-old hasn't done much to inspire confidence in his ability to compete at the major league level, despite his excellent minor league career. And he's finally got a little pressure coming from behind him in 2021 first-round draft pick Brady House. Now, it's time to see if he can respond to that pressure and start playing better in all aspects. And for all of you who want Kris Bryant, I would totally love to see him in DC as well. I just don't think the Nationals are going to spend big at the third baseman position in free agency this offseason. And there's a 100% accurate batting lineup for the 2022 Washington Nationals. However, there's still the issue of the bench. I think it would be wise for the Nationals to fill their bench with players who excel at defense. The post-All-Star break Nats were horrendous in the field, there's no sugarcoating it. Alcides Escobar will be returning after a solid stint with the Nationals during the second half of 2021, and I think that signing is fine as long as he's not being signed as the starting shortstop. I already mentioned Victor Robles, and I think he'll alternate between starting and coming off the bench, at least at the beginning of the year. Now the Nats need another utility infielder with great defense, and I think Andralton Simmons should be that guy. Simmons had one of the absolute worst bats in all of Major League Baseball in 2021. But, on the flip side, he's one of the greatest infield defenders of this generation. He played shortstop, second base, and third base this past season, and was great at all of them. He would be a perfect bench piece to add for this team. As for a backup catcher, Riley Adams will probably fill that role to start the season, after he was impressive in 2021. And finally, I think Andrew Stevenson will get a spot for his versatility in the outfield, speed, and his ability to come off the bench and get clutch hits. Lastly, I wanted to give Jake Noel a shout out. Noel tore up AAA this season, hitting over 300 and slugging nearly 500 with an .840 OPS, and being named to the AAA East All-Star team. Those are phenomenal numbers, especially when you factor in that Noel was juggling 6 different positions in the field in 2021. If the Nats do end up with Escobar starting at shortstop, Noel could take the final bench spot for the opening day roster. Now, it's also possible that the Nationals decide to utilize the 26th roster spot on another bullpen arm, but I already ran out of potential arms, so I'm just going to predict that the Nats will have 14 position players and 12 pitchers on their opening day roster. And here's one last look at this perfectly accurate 2022 roster. I hope you took notes.